Hello, my friends. I'm Bill McLaughlin. Welcome to St. Paul Sunday.
St. Paul Sunday is produced by Minnesota Public Radio and made possible by a major grant from the Minnesota-based General Mills Foundation, supporting excellence in education, human services, and the arts. Additional funding has been provided by the National Endowment for the Arts. Join us today with our guests, double bassist Edgar Meyer and guitarist and mandolinist Mike Marshall.
I'm smiling ear to ear. That's a whole other kind of chamber music, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What fun. Edgar Meyer is back in town. So great to see you.
Great to see you, Bill.
And you brought a buddy along whom I've only heard of up until this morning.
Oh. This is my friend Mike Marshall.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about the two of you and your music making is that, I was going to say it covers so many areas or types or categories of music, but in fact it sort of obliterates the whole notion of category of music, which is something I love, because I think we've kind of focus grouped ourselves almost to death, or at least to sleep. And I like that you guys, it's not a matter of crossing over from one thing to another. It seems like all of music is available to you.
The way I like to look at it is that, yes, there are, distinct categories of music. There is such a thing as jazz, there is classical music, but if you look at jazz as red and classical as yellow, first of all, it's hard to say exactly what red is and exactly what yellow is, and also you can have stuff in between, and you can have it's much more of a smooth continuum, and music as a subject, interests me a lot more than just trying to figure out one set of rules or one set of things.
You've been on the program a number of times, playing sort of the classical literature for the double bass, great Italian pieces of the 18th century. You've written a piece for Emerson Quartet, which you play with him. Recently, it's been interesting because you've had these huge hits with Yo-Yo Ma and Mark O'Connor. The three of you have had a couple of records I love to hear. I got to say, I put them on around the house. I just enjoy hearing them. Nice. Yeah. Largely things you've composed on those, or between you and Mark at any rate.
That's right, yeah. I think that, for Mark and I, and for Mike, and and for yourself, composition is just a natural part of being a musician.
Mm-hmm. And for Mike, it seems like you specialize in just about everything. How many plucked instruments? How many instruments do you play? We were listening. First of all, there's a mandolin that you were playing now. Huh?
Yeah, I mean they're all plucked string instruments primarily, but I do play the violin as well, which is tuned just like a mandolin, which is very common in the bluegrass and American folk music world.
Would you say that's your basic background? A lot of people may be hearing you on this show for the first time, and as I say, I've just met you.
Right.
I guess I knew of you first. You played with a very well-known Dave Grisman's band. That was around the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, when I was a little teenager there, 19, I moved out from Florida and joined his group. It was a fantastic experience for me.
So you were born in Pennsylvania, but then moved to Florida at a fairly early age? Mm-hmm. So how did you get into this particular kind of music? Where were you living in Florida?
Well, I was living in Florida, and, typical taking lessons from the fellow down the street, but I really am fortunate to have hooked up with him. He was a fabulous teacher, and he played all of the string instruments, but he made sure that I learned to read music and learn theory and got into jazz and classical music as well as bluegrass. So it was pretty diverse right from the beginning.
When you moved away from Florida, where did you go?
I went to California
right away
to join groups.
So you didn't go to Nashville, for example, which is where you went, Edgar, after you graduated from the Indiana University School of Music. You went to the Nashville scene. How did the two of you meet first, and where did you first play?
First in Bloomington.
Yeah, I was on tour with David, in fact, and Edgar came to the show, and we ended up hearing him play a little bit that night at a private party after the show. It was amazing.
Let's hear some more, because I think we're going to hear a wide range of music during the course of this program. And, it occurs to me, I forgot to ask, what was the name of that first tune that you played?
Oh, that was a Texas fiddle tune called the Golden Eagle Hornpipe.
Anyone know the composer, or is that just a traditional tune?
I don't know who the composer would be, and usually those things are just passed around player to player.
And what are we going to hear now? You have a set of 3 coming up.
That's right.
It says Pickles.
Pickles.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cute little number. We have a untitled duo that we'll do, an original piece, and then we'll play the Green Slime, and then actually a 4th one, maybe the Flaw Flu.
That's right. And then we'll move on to Brazil at the end of the set.
Okay, 4 tunes now from Edgar Meyer and Mike Marshall. Yeah, that's charming. We just heard 4 pieces from Mike Marshall was playing the mandolin and Edgar Meyer was playing the bass. This last one, it says Fla Flu here on the program, has a strong Brazilian flavor. Is that your doing, Mike?
That's right. That's something I learned. I went down to Brazil in 1995 and came back with a whole bunch of CDs and wonderful music.
It's not samba, it's not bossa nova, it's not MPB as they call it, which is really popular Brazilian music. What was that? That's a familiar form, but it's an old-fashioned form.
Right, it's an older form. It predates bossa nova. It's called choro music, which was instrumental music of It started around the turn of the century. Actually, it sort of corresponds to ragtime in America. Many of the same influences.
A lot of you listening will know some of the music of Heitor Villa-Lobos, and he wrote a lot of choros.
He did
for orchestra, sometimes for cellos alone, for example. But as an attempt to get, as I guess Scott Joplin was, to something that came in away from the people into a more classical idiom. And It was fun to hear the two of you play it because it's very graceful. This is, to most minds, a rather unlikely combo, mandolin and double bass. But it sounds so natural and so beautiful. But it's a very kind of subtle thing.
Well, we just love the sound of these instruments and all the little subtleties that come across.
The mandolin and the bass really leave each other, almost their entire registers free without any overlap.
Overlap, yeah.
And so it's very easy for us both to get the tone we like and to play in ways a little more freely.
Well, let's hear some more music. What do you guys want to play?
We have a medley, actually, of 4 fiddle tunes. The first one is called Whiskey Before Breakfast. We're actually not sure of the names of the other 3.
Well, with a name like that, you wouldn't want to dilute it with any others. So.
Once again, this is Mike Marshall and Edgar Meyer. Boy, is that fun. We've been listening to Edgar Meyer playing bass and Mike Marshall playing mandolin. We heard a traditional fiddle tune called Whiskey before breakfast, and then two new pieces. Edgar, you keep knocking me out. I mean, the things that the two of you are doing today are just killing me. It's so rooted in time and the earth. In that last set that we heard, the piece that affected me emotionally was that middle piece, the slow piece. And it reminded me in a way of a Bach invention. There's an E major invention where the two hands don't quite ever play together. And in this particular one, you were playing, yeah, that's exactly right. He's trying to give you a single version of the double bass. Mike, you were actually playing the bass line at the beginning of this piece. And Edgar, he had a kind of syncopate. Could we hear just the beginning of it? Because this puts me in another sweet world. Isn't that the sweetest groove in the world? Man, it just puts a smile on my face for the rest of the month. Who wrote that? Is it between the two of you?
Together. It was it's actually the very first measure is a piece I've had and used in 4 different pieces. It's one that I've been using a bunch this year, but this was the sweetest one with Mike, I have to say.
It's beautiful. If you've tuned in the last couple of minutes, we've been enjoying the music of Mike Marshall, who's been playing the mandolin. Edgar Meyer has been playing the bass. Might take a moment, too, to direct your attention to our website. We can be found at stpaulsunday, all one word, .org, stpaulsunday.org. You can find out a little bit more about Edgar Meyer and Mike Marshall. They're charming lads here. And you can also check out their discography, which is vast, and their range of partners and accomplishments, which are tremendous. What do you want to play next?
This is a Bach prelude. It's from the Well-Tempered Clavier. It's originally D-sharp minor. We do it in E.
That's Mike Marshall, mandolin, Edgar Meyer, bass. I loved that set. We started out with a very beautiful performance of a Bach prelude from the Well-Tempered Clavier. And that second piece is Mike Marshall setting up this killer, almost demonic groove while Edgar plays over it. And the two of you trade roles. And there's that beautiful slow music. And it broke my heart. It's so affecting, so pretty. And then this last piece, what do you call that last one?
Oh, that's one of your Brazilian tunes. That's The Flight of the Fly, written by a great mandolinist from Brazil, Jacob do Bandolim.
Yeah, what fun. And what a variety of colors you're using. Not to mention grooves.
Just trying to survive.
The two of you lock into time in a way that's just profound. I mean, you can be playing lighthearted music like that Brazilian tune there, but the time...
Well, it's nice to hear because it's something we're extremely conscious of and often, pretty rough on ourselves about.
Yeah, it's like pitch. I mean, you never give up trying to get it better or trying to, and if you don't watch it, it'll really slide on you. And also it's nice for me because Mike has a more deep-rooted background than I do. I mean, a lot of, in terms of rhythm, even though my father was a jazz player, such a huge component of what I've done has been in classical music, and it's a different way of locking up. And so for Mike to have had his primary experiences outside of that, I think actually helps give us a little more of a foundation there.
It's interesting, that difference that you're getting at. It's not that classical musicians play without time, but it's more flexible, especially in certain styles. I mean, opera is the most extreme example. Rubato is everything. You follow the singer completely to bring out the words. And this kind of thing of just finding a groove and actually delving down into, digging into the pocket is different from what most of the classical music we do.
Much of this music is really rooted in dance forms, whether you're talking about an Appalachian fiddle tune or a swing tune, or
Well, look at you. You're a bluegrass player from Florida. You live in the Bay Area. You play mandolin. Before we went on the air, you're talking about the new Bach biography of Christoph Wolff.
oh god,
And the two of you played Bach so beautifully. I mean, it's plain that your worlds are very broad. And
well, it's a new world today. I mean, it's hard to not be affected by this, and I think that this is something that musicians have always done, but of course things are sped up now.
I mean,
so
you
it's
have to-
exciting time.
I mean, if you stay with the Bach thing, and there's never been a more inclusive musician.
Right.
Both, and I also am very appreciative of the fact that he chose to study a lot of previous music, a lot of old music. He was, one of the original classical musicians in that sense, but it was of great interest to him what people were doing. I mean, it wasn't, there was music he didn't like, I guess. I mean, he used to make fun of some of the Italian singing that was going on, but generally, he was interested in anything that was around. And by the time he finished with it, I wouldn't always say it was better. It was just, it became him.
You're exactly right. He was the repository and also the man who made new music out of all of these old traditions, as the two of you do.
Yeah.
We get our own little small contribution.
We have time for a little more music. What do you want to play? We got to have some more.
We got a couple. We'll do a...
Oh, we'll bring some of these other instruments out.
Yeah,
I guess.
Michael plays some mandola. This is a little piece called Blooper, and then we'll finish with some Irish jigs that I learned many years ago from a man named Artie McGlenn.
Mm-hmm. And on that, you'll play guitar, is it?
Yeah,
That's
I'll play
right.
guitar on the last thing.
Okay, we'll have two more now from Mike Marshall and Edgar Meyer. Boy, you boys. Wonderful.
Good old-time music for you there.
Yeah, it sure is. It's Mike Marshall playing guitar there, and Edgar Meyer, the redoubtable double bass player. Edgar, when you said you were going to play some Irish jigs, I had no idea about this beautiful, slow elegiac music. Is that your own invention?
I did add that, yes.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many beautiful airs over there, and it's actually feels easier to recreate that than those jigs. I mean, I've written a few jigs, but they don't ring true like the ones that I've run into over there.
It was so great. What an interesting program. Thanks again to my longtime friend, Edgar Meyer. You always bring such interesting guests. It's great to hear whatever you're doing, whether it's compositionally or your magic on the bass.
Well,
thanks again.
This is a wonderful place to be, Bill. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Come again and again. Yeah. We finally got Mike here, Mike Marshall.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, finally.
From having only known you from records all this stuff, what a great pleasure. You're even better than your records, which are astonishing. Thanks to the two of you guys for coming.
Thanks.
Come again.
Mm-hmm.
All the time we have for music this week, folks. Stay tuned to all the great stuff coming up on this public radio station, and make certain that you join us next week when we come back here with St. Paul Sunday.